Yo, what up? It's your boy Prism Puerto Ricanism chilling with the house shoes on right here in the man cave with none other than your boy KEYLOCK BEATS. KEYLOCK BEATS, if you're not familiar, is the gentleman who actually produced mad tracks on the Morlocks album. Straight up sick with the boom bap hip hop beats, but not limited to. I wanted to bring him over so he could go ahead and cook up at my place and essentially get away from the comfort zone of being in front of equipment that he's already familiar with. Although he might be familiar with the operating system to some degree, it's still the knobs, the buttons, the layout, the groove boxes are different. One of the things I want to ask you about is really simple, simply with the fact that you've used the MPC Force, right? First off, let me just take a step back, because you've been producing for as long as I've known you. You've already been making beats. You have keyboards, you have groove boxes, you have software at your disposal, right?
Yeah, from the era where you had to cheat to get a beat done. You had to like speed it up because you only had 6 seconds to work with a sampling time, so you had to speed the sample up just to slow it back down. Like, so before, yeah.
I'm spoiled because what happened with us is that I got a terabyte internal inside the MPC, so I have access to a multitude of sounds and practically unlimited sampling time. The way they were sampling on the MPC, which MPC was it that you used?
Well, before even MPC, I had a DJX that had 6 seconds of sampling time.
Oh,
so yeah, I would speed the record up, record it at that high speed, so you could tone it down, so you could turn that 6 seconds into like 12 or whatever.
That's crazy.
But even on MPC, like, you know, if you didn't on the 2000 XL, if you didn't get the memory upgrade, you had like 16 seconds. So for a while, you just had like a couple drum sounds and one sample chop that you had to just go crazy with. And eventually I got the upgrade and put the extra RAM in, so I had 106 seconds of sampling time.
Ooh, 106.
A whole 106.
Incredible.
So.
But that's crazy because I actually heard stories about that, how people actually had only 16 seconds of sample time to be able to bring in the sounds that you needed to. Not only did you bring in the sounds, we're not talking about only the melodic or maybe a bass line, but the drums.
You had to chop the ends of you had to make sure there's no dead space at the end of your kick. You know, that's precious time. And you got to cut off and you
got to really kind of make it efficient, so you got to cut off that air at the end. Not to mention you're working with an extremely small screen. So 12, 16 seconds of sample time, make a drum kit out of it. Things that I'm not even doing, manipulating the envelope, messing around with the filter. You just gave us a little bit of your secret sauce in terms of how you manipulated the clap. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so it's like you take a sound and mess with the tune, mess with the filter, and essentially, like, as long as you say you have a sound, and the MPC, what was really cool is that, like, all right, you do -12 of that sound, you can play that sound on top of itself, and it'll play like in harmony with itself. That was what I first learned about like semitones and all that was on MPC. Like, oh, if I do -12 and +12, I can turn that sound into 3 sounds. I was like, all right, let me get a little melodic element. Oh, here's this little loop here. Well, let me pitch that all the way down and throw a bunch of stuff on top of it. That's just old. That's just the old MPC 2000 in me, where I'm like, all right, pitch it down, make it sound dirty, and then and throw some filters and EQs on top of it. And,
I love it. I love it. I love the process. So, as of today, you got on the MPC Live.
Yeah.
You've already worked with Machine. You had Machine Studio, correct?
Yep, still do.
You've also worked with MPC Force.
Akai Force.
Akai Force, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah, thanks for the correction, it's true. But out of that time that you spent on there, which one do you say is your favorite in terms of your overall creativity?
Well, as far as overall favorite piece of individual kit, I still go with the Akai Force, just because, like, when I was on there, like, there was some filter options that I would have liked to have done that I couldn't figure out. I saw the filter envelope, but I couldn't find just a straight low pass. I just wanted a straight low pass individual sounds without having to affect the kit. I know there's a way to do it, but it wasn't as accessible as it is on the Force.
He's referring to the MPC Live 2 as opposed to the Akai Force, which he's...
Yeah, and there's just a little bit more ease of use in the Force. And I have some of the best music. No one's ever heard none of the music, but some of my best music I've made ever is still sitting on the Force. I'm just not putting it out just yet, but it's some of my... I've had some really great moments on the Force.
Nice.
Even some house music.
Absolutely.
No one even knows I got house beats. I got some crazy house beats on the Force.
I'm down with it. I'm from Chicago, so I got house songs. So we might have to think of something about that.
But like the most time I spent was on the Machine. I still like I haven't updated the machine in so long that I don't even know if it can still do real time stretch yet. I don't think it does. But,
Yes.
but yeah, that's what I like about Akai is that it's just the time stretch may not be the greatest on the hardware just because it's hardware, but you can at least get a good time stretch going to like so that's what I especially like about sample end and just being able to bleed it a little bit better with the time stretching, just to make those gaps fill. But yeah, if I go on one groove box, it's gonna be the Forest because you got more pads, you have a little bit more control. The sequencer, they have the linear sequencer along with the clip launching, so you could do it all.
Yep. Kind of that all in one.
Man, Kai Forest, man, it's a great piece of kit. And then for the machine, so like each of them has their own strengths to me. So like Kai Forest is just it's just the best if you just want to be alone. You want to be able to play melodies because it has 64 pads. You can go in key. If you don't need a keyboard with it.
That's dope.
The best for performance. You should. There's some really great people doing great performances with the Forest.
Yes.
Machine is just the best browser. The browser in the machine is just top notch. Everything about it, from browsing and tagging your sounds to even the NINKS, all that stuff.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's great as a sound. I like using it as a sound module. I'm not too much of a fan of sequencing in machine no more, but like setting it up as a sound module in your DAW, there's nothing better than just having it all there in the machine.
What about sequencing kind of takes you away from the workflow in machine?
I just don't understand that new ideas stuff. When they came out with ideas, I just was like, I don't know. And then just the way I was working in machine, they totally flipped it, and I just didn't feel like learning it. And I was like, you know what? I don't feel like learning this.
Got it.
So I just use it as a sound module. Just browse my sound, all my kits. When I'm working in a DAW, I'll set it up as a 16 channel MIDI channel, 16 output sound module virtual. So that way, if I need to stem it out or whatever, that's what its biggest strength to me is just hosting. And Native Instruments really did a good job on hosting with it. It's top notch to me. But I just don't get with its sequencer as much as I used to.
Got it. Got it.
And for as far as just stacking sounds and making them knock hard, Akai I just feel has a good, just the tools involved, just the drum inserts and the drum plugins that came out. You could hard soft clip, and they got all those just on your drum program now, so you don't need extra plugins for it. You can just I want to turn up the soft clipping on it. There's some really good on the drum effects when you tab over. They have 3 sets of bass on that you can add. So there's a mid bass, a low bass, and tight bass or something like that. And so that'll make some stuff knock. This is another little tip, man. If you got an MPC, go all the way to those drum effects in the program and turn that mid bass. Or if you hear which one that your sound may be lacking, if you want that kick to thump, play with all 3 of those. And one of those is gonna make your drum thump more.
Since you lean more towards the Akai Force, out of all the groove boxes that we were talking with today, since you got a chance to play around with the MPC2 live too, so everybody understands, he's a producer in a real sense. There's a lot of beat makers who could do a 4-bar loop or an 8-bar loop and make something sound dope, but this is a guy that can take it from scratch, so from start to finish. He could take it, build it, manipulate it, export it, mix it, export it again as a finished product for you, producing and taking it to the DAW level, right? I know you're a Cubase user, right? I like Cubase. One of the first DAWs that I was using was Cubase. You didn't need an interface. Everything was USB at the time. You could just plug a mic in and start recording. The way you export a lot of your audio, I'm sure you're stemming out and you're working with it in Cubase and then you're mixing it in Cubase. So my question is, it appears to me that the Akai Force was more so made to mirror and work with as a controller Ableton Live.
Yeah, I mean, they have an integration.
Yes.
But what's not good about the integration is that you can't even play the pads as notes in it. It's just more for controlling Ableton. It turns it into a generic MIDI controller with cool screens, but you can't.
I see.
So if you want to play into Ableton, and you have to exit out of Ableton control mode, play the pads, and then go back in. So it's really bad. I stopped using Ableton because I tried to integrate them, and when I saw that was the case, I was like, I'll put it away till I see the update happens where you could just play it.
I see.
So I just left it alone. I'm like,
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not good.
So it just becomes a controller.
Right. So it should full on. It's really like the screens come alive and you can see what you're doing in Ableton on the Force, but you can't play the notes. So it's like for a lot of people it's not good because then you got to go out of that and go back into a Kai Force mode and send it out via MIDI, and then go back in. It's an extra couple button pushes that could get you out the zone. So it's like it's not worth it.
That's key right there.
Yeah.
Key. That's a big key from KEYLOCK Beats. An extra couple of button strokes that'll get you out of the zone, and you want to stay in that creative flow.
Yeah.
So Cubase does help you to stay in that creative flow. When you work with Cubase and your Akai or your machine, are you exporting sounds from machine and from Akai into Cubase and then mixing it, or are you building in Cubase using some form of VST and controlling the sounds with your Akai Force or your machine?
So before, when I was using machine, I would make the beat in machine and then export it at first.
Yeah,
then,
until ideas came.
Then I turned it into a 16-channel sound module that I load. I was like, I'm not producing in machine standalone anymore after that. I was like, I just don't like it. And then Akai Force, it's exporting stems is not good. Because if you have a drum program. You saw how I was putting the individual drums sounds
into each individual pad.
Into each track, yeah. And how, instead of playing the whole kit, I was just playing the snare on one track and then I put another drum kit. Yeah,
I tend to do that.
It's a little convoluted because you got all these extra sounds, which you could purge the unused ones.
Yes.
But that's just an easier way to stem out, and then I'll do all my drum busting and all that stuff in the mixing process later. But as far as the raw sound, that's how I do that. So that's why, in the Kai Force, what I found myself having to do is a lot of those beats I was making, I would have to duplicate the track and then get rid of all the other sounds except for the kick, all those other. So you end up with a track out, like a good track out.
Yes.
And there was no easy way to do that on the Force, which I don't like, but
incredible. So a very slow, tedious process.
Yeah, but they made it so that you can, if you have a Tascam or anything that's class compliant USB mixers,
you could track out through it.
Yeah. So you could track out through it. So if you connect a Tascam 16, I forget what's the model number, but it just came out, that you could stem it out a little easier. But I don't want to buy a piece of gear just to stem out. I just wish they'd do audio over USB, some other companies got. It'd be good. It would be cool if I could just connect it to the computer and just audio out of USB and track it out that way. Hopefully one day they do that, but
some type of update. Yeah,
but so another way is sometimes I would just play the audio into Cubase from the Force. There's been beats where I've done it that way, where I just start the idea on the Force and I just track it into Cubase. I'll make a loop on Cubase and I'll produce it in Cubase, but I'll be using the Force as a sound module and just playing drums and stuff into it and recording the audio tracks.
Got it.
I've done it like that.
Yep.
But
I'm familiar with that process. Yeah.
And what's funny is on the Morlocks album, what's the one with DJ Ruin scratching? I'm so bad with song names. Ronin, yeah. That one I made with Machine as the sound module into Cubase. So I produced that one on Cubase.
Interesting.
And Machine, like I said, I made it into a 16-channel sound module. And that one I was half asleep the whole time I made that beat. Because it was the day before you guys were going to get up. And I was like, I got to get them one more beat. And it's got to be a banger. So I was like, that's how I was making that beat. I was just like, it's midnight. And then, falling asleep while I'm making it. But I'm like, this is going to be dope. And I made the beat and I sent it. I exported it and then it ended up being I think the first one you guys wrote to, I think.
Man, it was strong. They picked up on it real quick.
Yeah, so just a little story on that one. There was that one was a fourth quarter. I gotta get him one more.
Boom.
I threw it.
Hell yeah.
And it being a touchdown, that's a banger. That whole song is a banger.
Yeah, it went hard. Do you consider a beat complete in loop form, or does it have to be arranged to be considered a beat that you calculate as a beat out of the beats that you've made? So can a producer walk around and say, yo, I got 500 beats, but he's sitting around with 4-bar loops, 459 4-bar loops, and 40 actual like arranged tracks.
Yeah, it has to at least have like a few parts to it. You know, like for you can call it a beat. You can call it. You gotta have at least intro, main theme, whether it be a verse chorus theme or whether it's just a beat that just keeps going.
Yeah.
But there has to be like some element to it that comes in and out. And,
Yes.
You know, like there has to be changes. It has to be alive. You know, if it's just a loop, it's not alive. You know,
I like it.
It's not alive. It's just a picture. Whereas you know, if it's a beat, it's a movie.
I like it.
Like, so
I like
a
it.
picture, like it's just like, okay, this is my picture right here. It's a, you know, or it's a trailer. You know what I'm saying? Like the 4-bar loops is a trailer.
Yes.
And here's the actual film. You know, it's the actual beat.
This is the feature.
So,
yeah.
So anybody could just be like, oh yeah, I make films, but they're all shorts. You know, like
Nice.
like, you know, just make a.
That's a great way to put it. See, you're hearing it from KEYLOCK. For all y'all young producers out there, yo, just because you got a loop built, that ain't a beat yet until you at least make something that resembles what the full feature will eventually become. You know what I'm saying? That's a great way to put it too. That analogy was great. You know what I mean?
That's how I look at it. It's like the beats tell stories, man. Like all our stuff is a story of some kind, but like the beat itself or the backdrop to it, the composition of that part of the composition is setting a mood, you know. So it's like a mood, you know. A mood isn't linear, you know. A mood isn't like one thing, you know. A mood is like it has like a roller coaster to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's nothing. Like it's a. Like, you know, like you have the height, you have the climax, you have the denouement, they call it, and then, you know,
Yes.
whereas the post after that, you know, it's like, without all that shit, it's not really a mood, you know, so it's like, you need all those elements. You know?
Very interesting. And you know what's funny? Because, again, we talk about being a producer as opposed to just a beat maker. I was actually talking with him about a bunch of projects that he was making. He's actually posting up on YouTube, and we'll link that in the description. We'll also put like somewhere right around here, we'll actually put his screen name maybe on the Instagram and YouTube where you can find him, so listen to some of his tracks. But he's been putting up a lot of tracks recently, and my thing was, we were talking about putting out a beat tape, kind of like he was like, I'm gonna do a mega beat tape, and I'm like, yeah, I think I did a mega big beat tape too. I just put it up. It should be releasing soon. It's 30 beats. He said, yeah, this one's gonna be like 100. So that's really a mega beat tape. And again, if he's putting them up and out, that means that they're complete. They've been arranged. So my thing for you, roughly, I don't expect you to know the exact number, but out of the beats you made, what would you say are the amount of beats that you've made that are overall, right, like draft form included, versus beats that are complete?
Like the ratio? Like
not even ratio, like, okay, 33% are done. No, like, I got 400 beats that I made over the X amount of years, and 200 of them are complete.
Man, like, as far as complete, it's probably like, I have those 100 that are already up there on the YouTube, you know, and then you got, like, man, like, I would say, like, another 75 that I feel are complete, and then, like, 50, like, hundreds upon hundreds that I'm like, you know, we'll see, you know, but like, sometimes I go through those and just pick them and be like, all right, you're getting finished, you know, like,
yeah.
But then I also have the axe party, you know, where it's like, I'm gonna listen to this shit, and if you don't move me, you're gone.
Yeah.
And I delete it.
Gotcha.
I've deleted so many beats where I was just like, nah, man, this like it didn't speak. Like, you know, like if the beat didn't have enough like in it,
yeah,
like, you know, cause like, and sometimes it's just even the loop. Like if the loop didn't have enough in it, then I already know you're not going nowhere.
That trailer was whack. Like it wasn't filling the trailer.
Yeah, I'm not funding this movie. You know, that was one beat. I called it Intercostals because it was after I had just popped my rib out training. And so yeah, stuff like that. I listened to that. I was like, hey, that was a banger. It's, you know, I was like, that one I could actually, you know, finish. But yeah, there's a lot that I cut out. But I do have a lot of just like ideas that I know can go somewhere. But then you know how you sit in front of something and you're just like, man, let's do something new. You know, like,
yes.
You just can't help it. It's just this. That also says that like, you're still passionate about it because you still want to create, you know what I mean? Like, you still want to create something. So that's why, like, most of the time when I'm sitting down, that's why I did the fourth quarter Jordan, you know, tape series. It's like, sit down and create the whole beat from beginning to end and just be done with it. You know?
Yes.
And I don't even do the card test or nothing. It's just done. Whatever you did that day, you're gonna put that out. You know, and that's what I like about it, because it puts you in a certain like, dude, stop. You know, obsessing over.
Yeah.
Well, it's like stop obsessing over perfection and just make the noise and go. You know, like I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
I like that.
So and sometimes I would pull beats that are like somewhat done, and I would finish them on days where I'm like, I don't feel like on days where I'll just be drained to the point where it's like, all right, well, I gotta do it. I can't not do it. So let me just pull it from the chamber or something that's halfway done. You know, and that's how I was finishing. Like so, like the last time I did like 39 beats. Like, you know, like 7 or 8 of them were like stuff I pulled that, you know, it's like, all right, let's finish you. You know, I always wanted to finish you. Oh yeah, I was like, I always wanted to finish you. Now, you know, I'm strapped for time and energy, so let's finish you. You know, like so. But there was a lot of them where I was just like, straight get into it, and man, there's some on that beat tape. I really like that. I didn't know I was gonna make that beat that day, when I was like, man, this came out great, you know, like
hell yeah.
I go back and I don't even listen to it now, because I'm gonna listen to it once I put it all, you know, because I'm taking the volume 2, volume 1, and this other beat tape series I had. It was called Enter the Archives. That's what it's actually gonna be called, is Enter the Archives, because I'm taking all the stuff that I've released before and just slapping it together and putting it on streaming services, because, you know, bigger audience, and, you know, like people in all these, when I put the stuff I put on streaming, I'm like, why are people in all these countries listening to it? I'm not like, I don't know anybody in Australia, but they somehow find your music. So I'm like, man, let me put it on streaming services then, because there's people that are probably like, you know,
people are tuning in. People want to freestyle at the crib. People want to try to, you know what I'm saying, write to your music and stuff like that. So it's definitely a thriving hip hop community out there. Speaking of which, with all those beats that you said that you actually have made, and the beats that he's going to be putting up, that there probably aren't any artists that are on it. You know what I'm saying? So where could people who would like to utilize your beats to make their songs, MCs, vocalists, etc., where could they find you to try to connect with you, to get in contact and get some of your production in their possession?
Oh, I got a bunch of beats that are just like anyone can use on my SoundCloud. So it's just KEYLOCK BEATS, like one word. And then Instagram, KEYLOCK_beats. You know, just hit me up. Like I don't really post much, but plan on changing that this year. You know, I'm not really too much of an online person, so
that's why I had to bring him out of the cave, because he's in hermit mode, just creating, working. You know what I'm saying, making music. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to bring him out here, record it, talk about a little bit more about his process, his not only his workflow process, but his thought process in terms of creating and how to make music. So you can probably get some gems out of this conversation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Outside of that, check him out. I'm going to go ahead and get out of this and go into the other section of this area where we got Machine and MPC, and his request was, as opposed to working standalone in the box, why don't we bring out the vinyl? So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, Chop City.
Let's go.